welcome to the stage, Constanza Cerutti.
Thank you very much. I am truly delighted to be here tonight with you and at the foot of my beloved mountains. Because here we are at the foot of a mountain named Chuscha. In Quechua, it means hair. And it's a sacred mountain that was worshipped by the Incas 500 years ago. It's a mountain that you can see maybe when we hike tomorrow. It's behind the clouds. It has many summits. And this is not a story that is well known, but about 100 years ago, a mummy was found in one of these summits. And it needed to be, the place where the mummy was found needed to be relocated. And so, in 1996, as a young graduate professional after becoming an anthropologist at the University of Buenos Aires, I was invited to join this expedition with some of the very few pioneers of high-altitude archaeology. In the picture, we can see Mr. Antonio Beorchianigris from the Dolomites in Italy, and Professor Juan Schobinger, who was my mentor, a Swiss-Argentinian archaeologist. And so I joined them. We went up the mountain. Some of us got to the very top, and we could relocate the place where this mummy had been found so many years before. So this is a chapter that connects Cafayate with the beginning of a very fantastic story of high-altitude archaeology, which nowadays has chapters all over the world, in Scandinavia, in the Alps, and you may hear about glacial archaeology, ice patch archaeology, mountain archaeology, but the origin is here. And so I'm very proud of being part of this history, in the history of science. Excuse me. So, I have a deep love for mountains. Although I was born and raised in a city without them, as soon as I could, I moved into the Andes, and I've been here for more than 25 years. I lived in an indigenous community that was part of the Inca Empire, and all northwest Argentina, as you well know, is part of the Collasuyu, the southern province of the Inca Empire that spread all across the Andes, from Colombia to central Argentina and Chile. And one aspect of the Inca civilization that is not so well known, but nowadays it's starting to be known better, is the Capacocha ceremonies. These processions and pilgrimages took place at the time of the death of the Inca emperor, or when the Inca emperor went to war, or in case of natural catastrophes. And children were main actors in these ceremonies. They were chosen, and they were sent to be with the mountain spirits forever, with the Apus, as part of this ceremony called Capacocha, which brought them from Cusco all the way to the mountains in mainly northern Argentina and Chile. Also, they have been found in Peru. Not every mountain, only the most important ones, but the other mountains also had small sites where the Incas lit a fire, the Inca ritual experts, to be part of this ceremony. So the Incas became the first civilization in human history to climb above 6,000 meters. And the mountaintop sites of the Inca civilization are a unique phenomenon which you will not find in the Himalayas, for example. This is for religious reasons, because in the Himalayas, in order not to disturb the gods or the deities, the pilgrims today, they circumambulate the foot of the mountain. They don't go to the summit. So we have these very unique sites in the mountains of the Andes by the Inca civilization. And as a high-altitude archaeologist, I was passionate to study them. At the time when very few people would go or venture that high, there were not very good cartography, equipment was not the best, so I was under-equipped. I had many challenges to face, but I was so in love with the mountains that I found the strength to do this work and climb over 100 mountains above 5,000 meters in a short period of time. We sometimes climbed at night so that we could spend the time in the morning before the wind in the afternoon would bring us down the mountain, taking pictures, making measurements, etc. We had to face lightning storms, snowstorms, strong winds. And the conditions on the mountains, even when the weather is very good, we are always in hypoxic conditions with very little oxygen, with low atmospheric pressure. Our brain is, behaves a little funny sometimes, and you can tell that.
well, our hands tend to freeze, so everything working up there is really, really challenging and difficult. And I would write reports for the National Council of Research and also for the offices of cultural heritage in the different provinces of Argentina where I was working. And when I had some free time, I also went climbing mountains that had no archaeology, just for fun. In the case here, I'm on Mount Illimani, a sacred mountain of the Aymara people in Bolivia. I went up Cotopaxi, Mount Pisces, which was at the time considered the highest volcano in the world, still one of them, and twice on top of Aconcagua, our beloved Aconcagua. And in 1998, I got an invitation from Dr. Johann Reinhardt, an explorer from the National Geographic, to join him on this active volcano for 1 month expedition inside the crater. We were working a bit up there on the archaeological site, and for 28 days with a little break that we had to go down to the museum to do some inaugurations up again. And we found some of the largest group of offerings from the Inca civilization ever documented on a high altitude site. But the preservation of the organic material was not so good because of the conditions, the sulfur, etc. So in the meantime, while we were working on Mount Misty, we started writing a project, our work to do on Mount Llullaillaco here in northwestern Argentina, and also on Mount Quewar. In this mountain, which is over 20,000 feet, 6,000 meters, you can maybe see our collaborators there in the little dots, yeah? So this mountain, we did a rescue archaeology mission in preparation for Mount Llullaillaco, where we could excavate the remains, the pelvic cavity and remains that were heavily destroyed of a mummy that was found by treasure hunters in the 1970s. And they used dynamite, so they destroyed the mummy. So we found the pieces that were there, and we rescued that a group of offerings. And then we were in preparation for going to Mount Llullaillaco. This mountain is named in Quechua. It means the mountain that hides the water. And we didn't know what we were going to find on this mountain. Some ruins had been seen in the 50s by mountain climbers. Dr. Johann Reinhardt had made a survey in the 80s. And this was a very attractive destination for scientific work because it is the highest archaeological site on the planet. In the history of mankind, anything ceremonial is not higher than this site, the highest archaeological site in the world. So we went there in February 1999, and in March we were already working on the summit. Before that, we were our own porters, so we went up and down the mountain a few times with heavy loads. We also spent a lot of time documenting all the ruins on the way to the summit because we didn't know what we were going to find. And also, we had a snowstorm. We lost, well, fortunately, we didn't lose anybody, but we had a member, the team member that had a pulmonary edema, so when he was being evacuated, part of the group went back to Salta, so only 9 of us stayed on the summit to work. And I'm really proud of the work I could co-direct in this expedition to Mount Llullaillaco. We even have like a Guinness World Record for being the highest archaeological work ever undertaken. And the conditions, thank you very much. We tried to be very careful with the methodology and the techniques, and imagine we didn't have digital cameras at the time. We had to change the roll of slide film in the middle of the wind, and the batteries were discharging because it was so cold. Temperatures were at -40 even early in the morning. So it was very challenging work. And at night, I had to stay up and pass all my notes in the tent. I had a unipersonal tent, being the only woman in the expedition. So I didn't have any, it wasn't warm there, I can tell you. And we were very happy when we found some offerings that started to appear. You can see here a necklace and some figurines that are representing a caravan of llamas, probably one of the part of the Capacocha ceremony or pilgrimage that took these children to the mountain. We didn't know we were going to find them. through the days, we came across the 3 Llullaillaco children, which are the best preserved mummies in the world. First, we found the boy, then the so-called maiden, who was a bit older, she was nearly 15 years old, and eventually we found the lightning girl. So this is a very special moment in my life and also in the history of science. And I'm very, privileged to be able to share this with you. We called her the lightning girl because she did get hit by lightning sometime in these 500 years that she was in the mountain. Nevertheless, you will see the condition of the organs is perfectly preserved. And I would like to make a special, to acknowledge the collaboration of our dear companions in the mountain, Arcadio, Ignacio, and Edgar Mamani, who are members of an indigenous community from the Colca Canyon in Peru, and they came and worked with us. Also some students from University of Arequipa, Católica Santa María de Arequipa, and the group of 9 people that were up on the mountain. But Arcadio, as you can see, Ignacio and Edgar, they brought the children with them in their bags. They were fundamental to this expedition. And this is Dr. Johan Reinhardt, the director of the expedition with whom I co-directed this fieldwork. It was it generated a bit of an impact, the finding, because it was unexpected. The mummies were so well preserved. We had to coordinate with the authorities of cultural heritage that had given us the permits, that we needed the dry ice to keep them frozen so that we could bring them back, bring them down to the city to be studied and preserved for future generations. Even finding the dry ice was challenging, but they did manage, and they brought boxes with dry ice, and so these mummies are the only ones that have been frozen throughout the process. And this makes these mummies a unique source of information, scientific information. So for 5 years at the Catholic University of Salta, where I work as a professor, we coordinated the research on these mummies, and I had to get acquainted with mummy experts from different parts of the world. I went to a conference in Greenland to learn about ice mummies, etc. And we coordinated this research. Here we are doing some hair analysis on the boy of Llullaillaco. If you can see some of the white dots in his hair, that is lice, body lice, and lice from the hair. So hair analysis gave us very interesting information about the diet of the children, which had changed and got enriched as part of the ceremonies of the Inca, where they would consume chicha, corn beer, for instance. And you can see that in the isotopic analysis of the hair, that the diet veered towards being enriched with corn. Mm-hmm. We also performed non-invasive studies, mainly radiological studies, as here, odontological, radiological studies on the maiden of Llullaillaco, probably the very best preserved mummy in the world. As you can see, she's in fantastic state of preservation. And also the CT scans. And this is the brain of the lightning girl. Remember, although she got hit by lightning, her organs are in fantastic shape. This is something that is really a miracle in science, because we are looking at a body that is half a millennium old. And together with the children, there are the different offerings that the Inca consider that would become part of their life in the afterlife or in the other world. Many of them are miniatures, because Andean beliefs, even today, imply that when you have a miniature in a sacred space, then in the afterlife it will become full size. Mm-hmm. So many of the offerings are in miniatures. Some are personal items, like the sandals. Some are typical pottery of the Inca style, as you can see the aribalos, and the figurines that are very beautiful, and all the organic material in perfectly preserved conditions. As you can see, the feathers, the textiles, etc. So this is a very unique group of offerings, probably one of the best preserved and best documented, because we took a lot of care in writing down the exact, precise location of each of the findings, of course. So in addition to the mummies, I have what I call my children, which are my books. And these are the ones about high-altitude archaeology mainly, and also mummy studies. This is based on my doctoral dissertation. It is over 400 pages. It has a lot of information from Spanish chroniclers that I read, also chronicles that were written in Quechua. I had to learn some Quechua, etc. And then I also wanted to introduce you, since you are so kind and you like nature and mountains, my other children, which are on the sacred mountains of different parts of the world. This is a topic I will talk about tomorrow for the community here in Cafayate. I've been working as a cultural anthropologist on the mythology, the pilgrimages, the legends, the folklore, emblematic importance of mountains, their symbolic dimension, what they mean for identity of people in different parts of the world. So you can see from Norway and Iceland to Australia, and this is all Ireland, Scotland, the Basque Country, Thailand, Rapa Nui, Costa Rica, the Canary Islands, etc. So everything is based on my own fieldwork. I got a chance to visit many parts of the world thanks to invitation by different universities. And when I went to lecture about my Andean studies, I would stay there, go climb the mountains and learn about how the mountains are important to the local people and write about that for public awareness. And my books have ended up in unexpected hands, as you can see. This is in the context of the Prince of Asturias Award ceremony in 2006, when the award in communication and humanities was given to National Geographic, and 4 of us and the president were the awardees. I'm right behind Pedro Almodóvar in the picture. And here it's King Philip, and I'm receiving the condecoration. I also had, unimaginable opportunities like lecturing in this panel with Reinhold Messner and other explorers on modern exploration at the Explorers Club in New York during the New Yorker Festival in 2006, or being awarded the distinction by the Wings World Quest, an association that celebrates women in science and exploration, in this case together with Jane Goodall, Dr. Jane Goodall. And thank you very much. Here I am receiving the Gold Medal Award from the International Society of Women Geographers. So these are honors that I have received. Thank you so much. Yeah, thanks. Really very much. And this is daily life for me in Salta, at the Catholic University of Salta, with my students of tourism. And we try to consider and look out at tourism beyond the business into this realm that I see almost as a sacred mission. And I'll try to talk a little more about that. In the majesty of the Andes, in the footsteps of the Incas, travelers become pilgrims. We are invited to discover the sacred dimension of these mountains that moved ancient Inca ritual experts to perform offerings at the highest ceremonial sites in the world. And these are my neighbors from the village of Tilcara, where I used to live before I moved to Salta, on a pilgrimage on the mountains in the Humahuaca Gorge, which is a World Heritage Area. And they are, following the Inca Trail all the way up to the summit of the mountain. So nowadays, people are also hiking here. So there is this continuity in how we perceive and we get close to the mountains in the Andes, recognizing their sacredness. Mountain archaeology, as I told you this story, and its extraordinary discoveries have contributed to worldwide attention and awareness on the urgency to study and preserve Andean cultural heritage, the promotion of scientific vocations among students in Argentina and elsewhere, also students from indigenous communities, the rise of Salta as an international destination for adventure travel and cultural tourism. So the discovery of the Llullaillaco children has meant a lot for the local community. Here, there's also something about mountain identity that has been awakened, which nowadays means that many young people go hiking. This was not common so many years ago. I was one of the very few women who went hiking or climbing, and nowadays this is much more common. So A final thought: in a world longing for the real, tourism is a sacred bridge, as I see it, between cultures, and a privileged way to create unforgettable life experiences and meaningful human connections. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Apu Kunapaj to the mountain spirits. Thank you.
Thank you.